Hello guys, welcome back. This is Herminio and today I'll be presenting a new topic, a new lecture topic under the the series of topics on research. And today I'll be presenting quoting and paraphrasing. But before we start, if you're new to this channel, I would like to invite you to join us, subscribe, like, comment, and share, and click the notification bell and choose all for you to get notified for our next presentation. So welcome, this is quoting and paraphrasing. Now again, if you are doing your review of related literature, you will encounter some difficulties. Even I myself have some problems with how well I quote or paraphrase statements from a particular literature and transfer it into our or utilize it into our review of related literature and into some areas and parts of our research paper. So join me and shall we explore this topic today. Now, I would like to give thanks to the Writing Center of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And if you want to learn more about this topic on quoting and paraphrasing, go to the website of the Writing Center. And if you want, here is the link of this presentation. If you want the full of all the things that I'm discussing, this is the main source of this lecture, and I'm so thankful again. Thank you for the Writing Center. I would like to acknowledge that the source of mainly of this lecture is from the Writing Center of the University of Madison, and just try to follow the link as I prescribed here, and you will go into the full article of and the source of mainly of this lecture. So shall we proceed, guys? Now, the first thing is, let us try to look into quoting and paraphrasing. So you see, integrating information from published sources into your own writing in order to add two things: credibility and authority. This process is essential to research and the production of new knowledge. Why? Because we cannot transfer the text, the ideas without understanding properly what is the process of quoting and paraphrasing the copyrighted materials and integrate it into our own paper, into our own research. So again, when you quote and when you paraphrase ideas, when you integrate ideas from literatures into your own work, it adds credibility and authority. And this is what we call the process, which is so essential in doing research and in the production of new knowledge, the quoting and paraphrasing. So before we go further, another term that we have to remember, the term which is so common, the term plagiarism. What does it mean? When building on the work of others, you need to be careful not to plagiarize. This is an act to steal and pass off as one's own, or to present as new and original an idea or product derived from an existing source. This is like stealing or passing off the ideas and words of another person as if it is your own. So in order to avoid this, we need to understand and practice the process of quoting, paraphrasing, and of course, citing. Now, how to avoid plagiarism? So in specific words and phrases, if you use an author's specific word or words or phrases, you must place those words within quotation marks, and you must credit the source. So again, if you use specific words or phrases, make sure that you have to quote or put quotation marks and plus credit the source. Now, on information and ideas, how to avoid to be accused as a plagiarist. Even if you use your own words, from ideas and information. If you obtain the information or ideas, you must, or you are presenting from a source, you must document the source. So you see, you must have to cite the source. Next, information. If a piece of information isn't common knowledge, you need to provide a source. Okay? Now, ideas. The author's ideas may include not only points made, conclusions drawn, but for instance, a specific method or theory, the arrangement of material or a list of steps in a process or characteristics of a medical condition. If a source provides any of this, you need to acknowledge the source. So take note of those things. Next is how to avoid plagiarism. If, again, the question is of common knowledge, look at this. You do not need to cite a source for material considered common knowledge. Now, for example, the birth date of a national hero, of course, it's considered a common knowledge. Or let's say you will have to provide the information of for example for example the which is common to us. For example, in the case of the Philippines, the date of the liberation from Spain, and the Independence Day. That is very common. If you get that idea from somewhere, or of course you use that idea or information, of course it's common knowledge. No need to cite some information. Everybody knows, as long as you are in the Philippines, that the Independence Day is on June 12, June 12, 1898. Now, what is a general common knowledge? It is a factual information considered to be in the public domain, such as birth and date rates of well-known figures. This is what I'm saying. And generally accepted dates of military, political, literary, and other historical events. In general, factual information contained in multiple standard reference works can usually be considered to be in public domain. So again, consider this: if factual information contained in multiple standard reference works are considered public domain, and thus you may be exempted from citing or quoting or paraphrasing. Now, there are other here which is known as the field-specific common knowledge. It is common only within a particular field or specialty. It may include facts, theories, or methods that are familiar to readers within that discipline. For instance, you may not need to cite a reference to Piaget's developmental stage in a paper for an education class, or give a source for your description of a commonly used method in a biology report. But you must be sure that this information is so widely known within that field and that it will be shared by your readers. For example, if you want to say something that the theory of alienation of Marx among sociologists, no need to quote, because everybody knew it already, and everybody knew was really the source of that idea, the alienation theory. Of course, it will be attributed to Marx. And the next is to be sure. If in doubt, and if you just want to be sure, make sure and you are so cautious, cite the source. In the case of both general and the field specific common knowledge, if you use the exact words of the reference source, you must use quotation marks and credit the source. Take note of some exemptions. Even if it is a common knowledge or field specific common knowledge, if you use the exact words of the reference source, you must use quotation marks and credit the source. Now, paraphrasing versus quoting. Question is, should I paraphrase or quote? In general, use direct quotations only if you have a good reason. Most of your papers should be in your own words. Also, if it's often conventional to quote more extensively from sources where you are writing, For example, in humanities paper, and to summarize from source when you're writing in the social or natural sciences, but there are always an exemption. Consider that. So when you use direct quotation, use it in general only for a very good reason. But again, in any way, it is advisable that you paraphrase. Okay. So the next is, should I paraphrase or quote again? In a literary analysis paper, for example, you'll want to quote from a literary text rather than summarize, because again, it is part of your task in this kind of paper is to analyze the specific words and phrases an author uses. Thus, it is a necessity, guys, because again, it is part of your task that you need really to analyze specific words, and it is a necessary that you will have to quote those words because it is part in what is asked for you in your paper. Now, in research paper, you should quote from a source. Number one, to show that an authority supports your point. That's one thing there in research paper. Next, to present a position or argument to critique on to comment on. Third, to include specifically or especially moving or historically significant language. And the next one is to present a particularly well-stated passage whose meaning would be lost or changed if paraphrased or summarized. Now, you should summarize or paraphrase when, number one, what you want from the source is the idea expressed and not the specific language used to express it. Okay, take note for that. Number two, you can express in fewer words what the key point of a source is. So you consider this when you come to paraphrasing the writings, the source. And again, if you are just after the idea and not the specific language, or you want to express it into fewer words, this is the time that you will have to paraphrase. Now, how to paraphrase a source? This is a general advice. When reading a passage, try first to understand it as a whole rather than pushing to write down specific ideas or phrases. Number two, be selective. Unless your assignment is to do a formal or literal paraphrase, you usually don't need to paraphrase an entire passage. Instead, choose and summarize the material that helps you make a point in your paper. Next, think of what your own words would be if you were telling someone who's unfamiliar with your subject. For example, your mother, your brother, a friend, what the original source said. Now, again, think using your own words, because again, if you are telling it to people that are not familiar or to your subject matter, again, it creates a little confusion. Now, remember that you can use direct quotations of phrases from the original within your paraphrase, and that you don't need to change or put quotation marks around shared language. The next is paraphrasing difficult texts. And let us try to look into some of this. Consider the following passage below from Love and Toil, a book on motherhood in London from 1870 to 1918, in which the author, Ellen Rose, puts forth one of her major arguments. Now look at this statement. Maintains that family survival was the mother's main charge among the large majority of London's populations who were poor or working class. The emotional and intellectual nurture of her child or children, and even their actual comfort, were forced into the background. The mother was to work for and to organize household subsistence. That's on page 9. Now, again, there are things that it's so difficult. So what will you do? Like that one that like the previous slide. Now, paraphrasing difficult text again is you must have to change the structure. Okay. Second is change the word. What does it mean by the structure? How the arrangement of words within the paragraph or within the text, and then change the words. So change the structure, just like in this case when you have some problems with paraphrasing a difficult paragraph or series of sentences, or the actual text really is somewhat difficult to paraphrase, then again start with changing the structure, the arrangement of lines, of words, and then try to change the structure in your paraphrase version, and change the words, and surely you did a good paraphrasing on that particular difficult text. So again, how to quote a source. So we are leaving now from paraphrasing. So let's go now to quotations. How to quote a source. Integrating a quotation into your text usually involves two elements. Number one, a signal that a quotation is coming, generally the author's name or a reference to the work. Second, an assertion that indicates the relationship of the quotation to your text. Again, assertion that indicates the relationship of the quotation to your text. So a signal that again that the quotation is coming, okay, generally from a particular author or an author's name or a reference, and then an assertion that indicates the relationship of the quotation to your text. Now, formatting quotations with these four kinds of lines or of sources. Like number one is short direct prose, longer prose quotations, quotation up to 3 lines of poetry, quotations of more than 3 lines of poetry. So shall we proceed now on short direct prose? So example, incorporate short direct prose quotations into the text of your paper and enclose them in double quotation marks. See the example below. According to Jonathan Clark, when you quote there the double quotation, so enclose them in a double quotation marks when you incorporate a short direct prose. Now on a longer prose quotations, begin longer quotations. For instance, in the APA system, 40 words or more. It depends upon your writing system. Now again, APA may vary accordingly from another edition to edition, but usually it will be 40 words or more. Then this is considered a longer quotation, and on a new line, and you have to quote it on a new line and indent the entire quotation. It must be in the block form. So with no quotation marks at all, because you already indent it in a block form. Now, as in the quoted passage from our example, which is the successful versus the unsuccessful paraphrases page. So the rules about the minimum length of block quotations, how many spaces to indent, and whether to single or double space extended quotations vary with different documentation systems. So check the guidelines for the APA system on quoting longer prose quotations. So again, remember, if it is longer, a longer line, it is longer than 40 words, it is the time you have to quote it in a block form. Okay, indent and into a block form. Now, formatting quotations of up to 3 lines of poetry. Look at the example below. So if you quote or quotations up to 3 lines of poetry should be integrated into your sentence. For example, in Julius Caesar, Antony begins his famous speech with, and then here comes 3 lines there. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. Now here, in fact, it is considered a three-line poetry, and simply put double quotation marks from the start to the end of the poetry line, and of course the number of lines and then the pages. Simply put it in parentheses after the double quotation marks, and then you do and provide the period at the end of the parentheses. Now, in quotations of more than 3 lines of poetry, for more than 3 lines of poetry should be indented. Okay? As with any extended or indented quotation, do not use quotation mark unless you need to indicate a quotation within your quotation. Okay? So unless you already indented it into a black form, and then there is some quotations there that you have to indicate, then that's the time you have to make and put quotation marks. But again, if it is already more than 3 lines, again, no need to put quotation marks, because again you will have to use an extended quotation by indenting it. Now, so let's go to the punctuating with quotation marks. So parenthetical citations. With short quotations, place citations outside of closing quotation marks, followed by sentence punctuation like period, question mark, comma, semicolon, or colon. This is what I'm saying a while ago, that after within a text, if it is a short prose text, it is less than 40 words, simply include it, integrate it into the into the text and put quotation marks, then put some parentheses on on the pages, and then followed by a period. So with black quotation, check the guidelines for documentation systems. Again, if you have some issues with how to make black quotations, then consult the EPA system. Next is commas and period. Now, please inside closing quotation marks with no parenthetical citation follows. Again, please inside closing quotation marks with no parenthetical citation follows. Okay, so for example, the one that you have seen at the bottom of the text. Now, next is semicolons and colons. Please outside of closing quotation marks or after a parenthetical citation. So where will you put the semicolons and colons? Use please outside of the closing quotation marks or after a parenthetical citation. And then quotation marks and exclamation point. Now, in this example, you will have here Minan 2001 acknowledge that H. W. Fowler's modern English usage is, now there is quotation marks here, a classic of the language, quote unquote, but he asked, quote unquote, is it a did classics? Then you have there your question mark, then a parenthesis, and then of course the quotation, I mean the question marks, the double quotation marks, then you have the parenthesis there, the number of pages. So note that the period still follows the closing parenthesis. So after the parenthesis, there is still a period that follows. You'll see there after page 114, then you have the closing parenthesis, then you will have the period. Now next is quotation marks and exclamation points. Place outside of the closing quotation marks if the entire sentence containing the quotation is a question or exclamation. So look at this. So the exclamation or the question mark is put outside a closing quotation mark if the entire sentence containing the quotation is a question or exclamation. So that's the thing. Now, if it is a question statement, after the quotation marks, then the question marks or an exclamation. Now, next is quotation within a quotation. Use single quotation marks for embedded quotation. So you have an example here. If it is already, it has the state, the lines or the statement has a double quotations, and there is a quotation within that double quotations, use a single quotation marks, and see with the example that given. So second to the last slide, indicating changes in quotations. So quoting only a portion of the whole. For example, how will you do it? So use ellipsis points to indicate an omission within a quotation, but do not at the beginning or end unless it's not obvious that you're quoting only a portion of the whole. So when will you put ellipsis points? It indicates that there's something omitted within a quotation, but do not put ellipsis at the beginning or end, except again if it's not obvious that you are quoting only a portion of the whole. Now, before we end, this is the last slide. So indicating changes in quotation, adding clarification, comments, or correction, what will you do? You will have to put a sec sign. The meaning of sec is meaning so or thus, to indicate that there is a mistake in the source that you are quoting and it is not your own. So within quotation, use square brackets, okay? Or not a parenthesis to add your own clarification, comment, or correction. So guys, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy our presentation on quotations and paraphrasing, quoting and paraphrasing. And see you next time. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and of course, hit the notification bell and choose all. Again, this is Herminio. Bye-bye and have a good day to you.